name is Helen. I'm 45 years old, working mother. I graduate with an associate's degree and work for a local real estate agency. I'm a professional with 25 years of experience. I had ups and downs over the past 36. I married twice and had one child. My first marriage was in my 20s, but my ex-husband was involved in a car crash. He was born in New York City on August 12, 1930, to William and Mary née McNamara O'Brien. He graduated from St. John's University with a degree in accounting and went on to work for the Internal Revenue Service before retiring as an auditor. He was married to his beloved wife, Patricia née Cullen, for 57 years until her passing in 2001. He is survived by his children, William O'Brien, and his wife, Mary Beth, of New York City, Kathleen O'Brien, of New York City, Maureen O'Brien and her husband, Michael Donnelly, of Westfield. His grandchildren, Sean, Kieran, Connor, and Cormac O'Brien, and Liam and Aidan Donnelly, and many loving nieces and nephews. He was predeceased by his sister, Mary McNamara, and I was so devastated that I thought following him. At such time, my current husband, Kay, 2 years my junior, consoled me and gave me hope to move on. He was the worst salesman in the office but I thought he was cute. Well, the cuteness I saw in him disappeared. After we got married, it became unreliable and then broke down completely. He comforted and confided his love I was down.
I'm in love with you, Helen. Please marry me. I want to make you happy again.
It was easy to be lured by his tenderness when I was in a dark hole. I finally accepted his continuous purr and was married to him. Although I wasn't able to have I had a son with Ken. My son, Tom, was already 15 years old. He was a high school junior, working hard on his project for NAT, science research competition. I had a tumultuous life, but I found it once again. At least, that's what I used to think. The change came when we had to deal with Ken's mother.
I want my mom to move in with us. I worry about her being alone in the house.
Ken suggested that his father passed away.
We have a spare bedroom we hardly know. It can be her room.
I contemplated. It was true that there was a spare, rarely used, except for occasional guests. The house is usually empty. But if I had to live with my mother-in-law, it was a different story. I didn't want to create a disturbance in Tom's study either.
If my mom could take up on the choir, I would be so happy. You have more time to take better caption. She can even prepare late-night snacks for him,
he said simply. When Tom stayed back at school with research team, he always had to eat fast food. Some mothers packed or delivered healthy meals to their kids. I work every day, so I always feel good about being able to support him. Like the other moms, she was always there to help out with anything that needed doing. If Karen could do that, Tom would happy for sure. Not only in a calculating sense, I could sympathize with the loss of her husband. I knew too well how it felt to be left behind. I wanted to ease her grief by letting her live with us. And then Karen moved out of her rental apartment and moved in with us one day. However, it was such a mistake. As soon as she moved in, both her and her husband changed drastically.
Here, darling, open your mouth.
Thank you, Mummy.
Karen took a spoonful of mashed potato and brought it to Ken's mouth.
Yummy.
You've always loved mashed potatoes since you were a kid, honey.
I understood her love for her son, generously gave to him. But was this acceptable for a 70-year-old mother to do to a 44-year-old son? She fed Ken like a baby. Ever since Karen moved in, Ken became a self-centered and bratty kid.
Helen, give some of your mashed poi him. It's his favorite food. No, why? Why should I?
Any kind of potato dish was my favorite too.
Can't you even share a bit with your husband? Such an awful wife.
Whatever I wasn't going to budge.
You see, Mummy, she always treats me like nothing. She acts superior to me just because she's a little older.
Before Karen moved in, he called her, now it's mommy. A man in his 40s was calling his Moi I mommy. Even our 15 years old son called me. I felt nauseous and my appetite flew out of the window.
Common. Give some to him.
Karen just dived her spoon into my potato and impolitely scooped up a.
Here you go, darling.
Yeah, thank you, Mummy.
It was revolting to watch. The exchange between the brat and H so ridiculous that I rolled my eyes. Wondered if they would soon start handing out public. It wasn't only their relationship that was weird. When Karen just moved in, she must have wearing sheepskin. In a short while, she shed it and her true nature was revealed.
Look, Helen, the bathroom floor is. You can't even do your chores properly.
She was supposed to take over the family business. Contrary to her promise, she didn't watch TV in her room every day, and she criticized the way I did that.
If you don't like it, please, you yourself. I'm busy with work too.
If I retorted, she immediately tried Ken on her side.
Darling, it's terrible. I was just telling her about my kids.
Of course, she took her side. If I needed to listen to her, I was Ken too. She did absolutely nothing to help housework. And, of course, she never even tried to prepare Tom's late night snacks. On the contrary, she disturbed him, was focusing on his research.
Karen, turn down the volume when TC working. It's too loud for him to concentrate.
She didn't flinch, even though I came at her harshly.
What's wrong with you? My hearing. Let me watch it as loud as I want.
She countered, and then,
He's not focusing hard enough if Tom, come here for a sec.
she made an illogical accusation against him.
Stop it!
I tried my best, but she never reduced the noise. Tom had no choice but to work late or his teammates. Karen didn't like that. She kept calling Tom's cell phone, which he had given her without his permission.
Tom, why are you still out so late? Come back right now.
Such unreasonable treatment was not his education and morals. When I took the phone away from her, she started yelling at me.
It's your fault to begin with. Your lack of discipline makes him too carefree.
I ran away from Karen, who was hysterically screaming at me, and took refuge with my neighbor.
No point hiding from me.
She barged into some of my neighbor and ended up having a quarrel with. Seriously, it was the worst idea to move in. I regretted the decision so much. But even if I kicked her out, she had a place to go. She could go to her sibling S house, which was hours away from the nearest town, in the middle of nowhere. She strongly refused that she would live there. Her retirement was meager. She didn't want to work on the farm, but she had to survive. Nevertheless, the situation as it was, the family was going to be ruined. I made up my mind and demanded,
Please, move out of this house. I will find you a place to live through work. I will find you a place to live through work.
Karen was stunned at first, but then she smirked.
Who decided such a thing? Ken hasn't mentioned anything to me, right, darling? I don't have to move out, do I?
She cooed as she leaned against him.
You know, we need to put some effort into living together.
He took her side.
She's also been putting up with some things. You two should be more considerate. It's terrible of you to just kick her.
What kind of consideration did she? I was determined to have her leave. Then she mentioned something odd.
If you don't want to live with me, this is Ken's house anyway. Leave Tom with us and get out of here. What?
I couldn't figure out what she was telling me. Was it her or me who had to leave? Form this house?
He worked hard to buy this place. You might want to argue that you were justified in your actions, but I'm afraid that won't hold up in court. But I doubt that you make enough to buy a house. You took an advantage of being older, looked down on him, but I won't let you do that anymore.
Ken was fidgety next to his mother, yelling and spitting in my face.
Darling, do you agree with me?
What? Well,
Before he could continue, she interrupted.
Why did you let him marry a woman like her and use women like me in the first place?
She suddenly changed the subject.
Only to have you bear a child. Otherwise, I would have never agreed to marry a widowed, used woman.
She called me used. I couldn't believe it.
Wait, how rude are you to call me?
It's the truth, isn't it, darling?
I expected him to finally scold but it was wishful thinking.
well, Mom used to say that I needed to get out there and find someone to have a son with. To be honest, I didn't think it would work on a sad, widowed woman.
He said, without a care in the world.
I would have preferred a younger G, but she said it was better to have a woman who was past her prime.
Are you serious?
Was flabbergasted. The way he approached and proposed. Everything was orchestrated by Kareem.
It didn't matter who, as long as she be a tool to produce a child. Tom's already grown up, so you are no anymore. Leave him behind and you get out of house.
She said triumphantly.
I will discipline him from now on and raise him to be an impeccable man.
17 years of marriage burned in my head. Ken's affection and Karen's kindness. Fake. The realization devastated me beyond belief. I decided to get a divorce then. But before I could mention the word happened, her relative also lived in the middle of nowhere. So it was impossible to return on that day. There were many customs in the area. Ken was able to take a paid leave at last moment of notice. Since he was the worst salesman in company, there was no difference whether he was or not. Incredible. I was impressed in a weird way. Karen wanted Tom to come along, but his research team had been working on the model all week.
I will bring him over once he is done.
Well, I guess no other choice. You don't really need to come, Thousand.
As usual, her sarcasm never stopped.
Tom will eventually inherit all that, so he needs to meet everyone and Leah Customs there. One,
I thought whatever you say in my kept quiet. I was grateful for the opportunity to act on my plan. Ken Karen left to attend the funeral. 3 days later, it was the day of burial. Tom was done with his project, but was sick to stay put. Then I sent a text to Ken during the I'm divorcing you. Tom is coming with me. Goodbye. I guessed he was too surprised to take the seriousness. What is your name? How old are you? Where do you live? 4 days after the test, Karen called me.
Hello, are you guys back? You were gone for a bit longer.
I answered.
where are you?
She started ranting right away.
We can't get in the house. Have you changed the lock while we away?
They were flustered to find that it didn't open and locked outside with their luggage. I responded calmly.
That's right. I changed the lock. I can't let weird people get inside, you know.
My spiteful tone irritated her.
What do you mean? Are you saying I'm weird?
She was outraged. Not only you, but Ken too.
How come no one is at home? Where's Tom?
He's studying next to me. It's a small apartment, but he says he can concentrate better without the noise.
Tom was taking a break at that moment. He had to take a proper rest to sustain his energy. I wasn't going to be too fussy about it.
We already moved out. It's so convenient to work for a recruitment company. We found a nice place we could move away.
As a real estate agent, I knew many houses and apartments.
You are very welcome to move out. But how dare you change the lock? It's Ken's house.
She still hadn't grasped reality.
That's not his house. It's mine.
She was so astounded that she choked on her words. The three-bedroom house was too big for a single person, but perfect for a family of three. We were living in harmony until Karen came along.
Did you really think the income of salesmen like your son? You can buy such a nice house in that area.
I aided insult to injury.
I plan to sell it. It's too big for the two of us. I don't want to keep it and have you guys barge in on us.
I continued ranting. Karen had lost her words after I called the worst salesman.
He will receive divorce papers. Even if I asked for alimony, he wanted to pay up with his low salary. Let's just get it over with quickly.
Then she said something unexpected.
Yes, that's correct. You don't understand, do you? When a couple gets divorced, their assets be divided between them. If you sell this house, half of the will go to Ken.
She tried hard to keep her wits about her.
Karen, I don't have to share the ass had prior to the marriage.
I laughed at her shallow wisdom.
I bought it with my ex-husband's one insurance policy.
She was speechless at this unexpected provision of the law.
Do you get it? That's that then?
I was about to hang up when stubbornly started screaming.
Then return Tom to us. I'm not giving up the custody of my grandson.
I turned the speaker on and let Tom conversation.
Hey, Tom, your grandma wants to see you. She says you can have her inheritance. Do you want to do it?
He threw a magazine he was reading.
No way. I can't. That's out of the... She and Dad are really weird. I shudder to think what she would do if I became the heir of her family.
I turned the speaker off and said,
Here you go. He doesn't want to be the heir, so find someone else. Although a son like yours, over 14, low income, and mommy's boy, will have a hard time finding a woman. Well then, take care.
Ken and I got divorced. The lawyer I hired through my work managed to collect a large amount of support in one go. Ken was reportedly consulting with various lawyers, but all had refused to take the case. It wasn't the kind of case he could a lawsuit, and everyone knew he was the worst. The house was sold on good terms, us full advantage of my career. Ken and Karen had lost the house. Ken shed Mommy's boy and no longer Karen. She had no choice but to move to the middle of nowhere and was forced to work on the farm. I hate pastes the most in the world, she declared, and I felt good to imagine her crying every day. A good life with a full pension is just around the corner. My name